All right, it's 5 o'clock. Let's stand for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hi, Kim. Can you hear us? She's supposed to be able to hear us? Or? Ashley, just... Kim.
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to make sure. All right.
Yeah, I was on mute. I apologize.
No, that's okay. All right. Next item on the agenda would be our open forum. Does anyone like to speak with the board tonight? Okay. Seeing none, let's go on to our celebrating of our district successes. Science Fair.
Good evening. Tonight we are recognizing or celebrating the successes of our GT programming enrichment programs. And of course, the person that runs that is Gail Brownlow, who's done a fabulous job. And so I asked her if she would give some of the updates to you on what's been going on this winter/spring. And again, thank you, Gail, for everything you do.
So first I'm going to talk about our science fair, and we had a great problem this year. It grew, and it was busy. We had a couple of board members judging, so I thank you for that. We held it February 2nd at Southwest Middle School. I think it's been our third year there, and I love the location because we have third, fourth, and fifth graders participating, and they get a glimpse into the middle school. I talked to some fifth graders this past week, and in their intro visit to Southwest, they didn't have the tour. I think that's coming later. And when I asked if they had been there before, they said, well, in the science fair. So it is a good way to make them feel more comfortable in the building. We had, let me go back. In 2017, we had 102 students participate. Last year, we had 114. This year, we had 143 present to judges. We were expecting 160, so we were set up for that many. So we grew about 40 students, which is a great problem. The halls were crowded, and the little theater was feeling little. But we have some plans that if we get the same turnout next year, we'll go down another hallway, and I'm thinking maybe staggered awards in the auditorium, so different schools at different times. We had 29 adult volunteers and an amazing 63 high school volunteers. And I could not do this event without the wonderful high schoolers, so thank you, Gigi, and the high school National Honor Society, Key Club, and others come to help us judge. We couldn't do it. And we hear such great comments from both sides. I think the younger students love talking to the high schoolers. And sometimes the high schoolers come into the judging meeting before we judge and send them out, and they're a little nervous. And I just get great feedback after the event that it was really fun and it brings back some good memories. So I'm always trying to make improvements on the science fair. So this year was the second year we went back to having T-shirts. And the real reason for this is every student who participates gets to go to the Science Museum of Minnesota. And this helps so much. I know the students from all of our buildings. Well, you know, I recognize a lot of them. But we also take St. Theodore students as well. And it's just nice to know who I need to reprimand if necessary, or head to an adult. So one thing that was a big switch is we've always had a system of red ribbon, blue ribbon, trophy. And anyone who's been to the science fair has seen that look of utter sadness by anyone who gets a ribbon. So this year we changed to gold medal, silver medal, bronze medal. They go on the same, they go around their neck, and it's just the color of the medal. And I think that was a good change. I didn't get any negative feedback. I was expecting some, but hopefully everyone was okay with that. Also, to try to get the students more involved in looking at the other science fair experiments of their peers, I created a kind of like a worksheet for them to go around and look at projects and write down questions and what the person discovered from their question. So that kept them busy while the judges were doing their tallying. We had a couple of community organizations come and be part of that worksheet part so that they could go and talk to the Watershed Board, 4-H, and the Convention and Visitors Bureau was there to talk about, help me out, it's the winter event. All I'm thinking is the Polar Plunge, but they didn't have the Polar Plunge here this year. Thank you, Big Freeze. The last big change this year is we had noted that some of our students need some more support in completing their projects. So I reached out to our wonderful high schoolers, and I found 7 mentors who came about 5 to 7 times to Halverson and worked one-on-one with a team to help them go through the process of doing their project. And I'm hoping that that part grows so that if we have students that would like a mentor, we can direct them. So it's not just at one building. That was just our trial. Our coordinators this year were Don Ware at Halverson, Clay Scott at Sibley, Crystal O'Connor at Lakeview, and Jenna Miller at Hawthorne. And they do all the legwork of making sure kids are on track. So I really appreciate their work. Before I switch to Math Masters, do you have any science fair questions?
The next step is regional again, and when and where is all that, or don't they do it anymore?
Regional, I give the kids information via the website, but I don't do any of the legwork for that, so I don't recall the date. It is in Mankato. Math Masters, we're kind of in the middle part of. Grade 6 has already competed. They competed on February 28th in Austin. And our 5th graders are going next Thursday for their competition. Just a little trivia. Last year we had a snow issue and a late start on the 5th grade Math Masters, so it's not going to happen this year. But 6th grade is coached by Robin Hundley, and they had tremendous success. I was hoping she could be here to share it herself, but I will read them off. She had a team that got first place in the team round. This is amazing. The old gym at Austin High School is full of teams, and they got first place. Can I read the names of those students? Ava Murray, Connor Persig, Ben Schultz, Bree Wyloggy, and Kyle Steffel were in that team. And then she had another team place second, and that was Nevaeh Wackles, Tyler Yolden, Joseph Calderon, Archie Nelson, and Ethan Hovey. They also do fact drills, and she had 7 students placed in the fact drills. And individual places, they had 4 students placed there too. So this was incredible, their results. I'm very proud of them. Students in Math Masters do a 5-minute fact drill on their own, and then they do 4 individual rounds that are 10 minutes each. And then they move into teams and they do 3 rounds that are 15 minutes each. Our 5th grade coaches are Matt Bitts from Lakeview. I believe he's got 3 teams going, and then the other schools all have 2 teams. Rachel Lankford from Halverson, Larry Rassler from Hawthorne, and Kelly Nellermo from Sibley. But I thought it would be interesting for you to see what a 5th grader is going to see next week. So I'm going to pass out a little quiz, but you don't have to do it now. This is a take-home. For math, it's all good. So this is what a fifth grader would see for an individual round. They have 10 minutes for both sides. But now as you're looking at it, take away anything you learned past fifth grade. You don't have high school algebra. It's amazing to me what they're able to do. Sometimes I go and I help and work with teams, and it's interesting because I have to think, oh, I can't put it into an algebraic equation with two variables. They won't be able to do that. So you have to work around that. So you can do this and then email me your answers and I'll let you know. But remember, you get 10 minutes. You have to time yourself, okay? 10 minutes, yes. And it's one round after another, and it's the best competition. It's not real exciting, but they say go, and all the heads go down to the papers, and then the basketball buzzer is what stops each round, and they all jump every time. It's a great competition. Any questions on Math Masters other than answers for the quiz? What? This round they do get calculators. I think the fact drill they don't, but the other rounds they do. Gigi, were you on Math Masters? Yeah.
How many years have you been leading this now?
I believe this is my 5th or 6th year. They're kind of zooming by, but.
And then science fair as well?
Yes, science fair, there was a year or two that someone else was coordinating it after I took on this role. It's one that is posted every year, so it's high demand, high demand.
It's really nice to honor Gail with this because she is super professional, super organized, and the teachers really enjoy working with her. And we just continue to see involvement grow with students, and teachers love working with Gail. So great opportunity to recognize her tonight. So.
Approval of tonight's agenda. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Pose the same. Okay, motion carries. Consent items. I'm looking for a motion on that also.
Move to approve.
Move to approve. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. Jill beat you. Sorry, Kim.
No, it's okay.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Pose the same. Okay. That passes. Reports, Dr. Funk.
So Ashley's passing around a paper copy of what I've got up here. Kim will send you an email of this too, of this document. But what
I can see it.
Okay.
She put it up for me. Yep.
All right, so what we have here is the House and the Senate. I've never seen the two entities so far apart on the funding side of education. So as you can tell, the House wants to put $900 million into education, the Senate 206. The significant difference on the basic formula, the House is 3 and 2, the Senate is 1/2 and 1/2. The House also wants to help with equalization for those people who have local levies, which would help our taxpayers here a little bit locally. They want to, you can see breakfast after the bell to help students who are, schools help give more free breakfast to kids. They have, let me see here, $120 million for special ed. We talked about the cross subsidy a couple meetings ago. The Senate has 0 for special ed. Significant differences between the two bills. Interesting, you hear about the gas tax, and so they're talking 20 cents a gallon gas tax. Why that's important to education is if we do the gas tax, then the roads will be paid for out of the gas tax, and the money will be available for education instead of the roads. So that's kind of the linkage there. The other things, as far as policy, the House says you can start school before Labor Day on specific days because of the late Labor Day start. Senate goes much further for local control, saying, hey, you know what? School boards should be able to provide or plan and approve flexible learning years if it works for their local district. Long-term facilities maintenance, we can't use it right now for safety enhancements. The House says in their bill that we should be able to. The House has significant changes to the tiered licensure system, which has been in effect just 1 year. The Senate kind of goes the other way, saying, hey, if you're a career tech ed teacher and you're competent, you should be exempt from teaching license requirements. So we got kind of two extremes going on there. The other thing that the House has is they want to make sure that early learning teachers are licensed within the tiered system. And so they would be really considered more fully aligned with the rest of the K-12 teachers within the education system. So this is as of yesterday, but you can see that they are kind of miles apart in a lot of things here, both policy-wise and funding-wise. So it'll be interesting to see where the compromises start to occur. And hopefully, they start to have these conversations when they get back after the holiday break here, so that we're not coming down to what we've been so many times in recent history, May pushing into June, because they can't make a decision on things. So, questions on any of that?
The Senate, you said that they're funding significantly less if the gas tax goes through. Are they looking to budge on that, or are they pretty well set where they're at?
I think that personally, I think they're going to budge, and they're going to budge quite a bit. But I don't think I've seen a settlement that low in years. And I haven't seen a proposal as high as the House's in years. So I think they're purposely low because the House has a pretty high proposal. So, thank you.
School board, we'll start with Dennis this side tonight.
So we actually had a very being on childcare and the issues that are surrounding that. Planning ahead, looking at another eggs and issues coming up, and I'm drawing a blank. What was the next one we were looking at?
The next one we were looking at was on housing, or not, yeah, housing, I believe.
Okay,
Yep.
there you, okay, housing and then workforce and then the I-90 corridor. Does that sound right? So we had a good discussion with that, so we're plugging ahead there. We had our policy committee met on April 1st, and most of those policies we will be voting on this evening. We had another one scheduled for today, but that got postponed. We had to reschedule. That will be made up at a later date. Educational Foundation was to meet last Wednesday. That got pushed out to April 24th, so we'll have that coming up. Just wanted to highlight the Tiger Trot was held this past Saturday. Special thanks to Jillian, to Tiffany and to Chris, the amount of time and effort they put in. Turnout, there were a lot pre-registered, but the turnout wasn't as good, again, because of the weather. But just to all the staff and volunteers that showed up to assist with that, turned into a nice event. And then on April 8th, we had building tours. Kim and I were able to go on those. We got to take a look at Halverson, we got to take a look at Sibley, and we got to take a look at Lakeview. It was interesting walking through Sibley, seeing the amount of kids in the classrooms and the small space available right now. So although we talk about it, when you go in and actually look at it, you become very aware of the issues with the number of students in that. So, I'm done.
Well, I'm on the policy committee as well, so I attended the meeting on April 1st. We talked about the policies that we're going to talk about today. And I actually participated in the Tiger Trot. I will not disclose my time. No, my goal was to stay warm and to finish, and I met both of those goals. So I was very impressed with all the volunteers, all the staff and teachers that volunteer their own time to help with that. That was amazing. And the Teacher of the Year reception was on April 3rd, and Chris Burnett was our teacher, is our Teacher of the Year. So congratulations to her.
Thank you. I also attended the policy committee meeting, and there was one scheduled for today, but it was canceled, so I'm assuming we'll have another one coming up soon. I attended the Family Services Collaborative meeting. They spoke about healthy families and the budget, and then that Tobacco 21 passed, so very happy about that. Thank you.
Kim?
Okay, so yeah, I like it when Dennis goes first because I was checking mine off my list here. But I did attend the toy reception as well. Great time, and congratulations to all the nominees. I did attend the welding contest at Riverland that invited high school students in to do a welding competition. And then I also attended and of course these are work related, but I get to interact with high school students from Albert Lea. I served pizza at the Career Day at Riverland a couple weeks ago, so that was fun to see our high school juniors at that as well. I did attend some very cold track meets, but I too am very impressed at our track teams and their coaches and how their sportsmanship is and how they do. They've faced some very tough opponents, and they all are smiling, and it's cold out, and the teams are doing well that way. And I just think it's awesome to see teams work like that, and I was excited to be there and cheering them on. It's not one of those sports that happen real fast, but it's a fun sport to watch. So that's all I have.
Thanks, Kim. I also attended the Teacher of the Year banquet. Very nicely done again. And congratulations to all of the nominees. There was quite a list of them. Attended a facilities update meeting and also got to sit in on the activity director interviews.
We got Big 9 coming up, so that's big. I think it's May 3rd, so come out and see that. And everyone gets a day off if they're not in music, so everyone is happy about it. We also have a bunch of band and choir orchestra concerts coming up, so prepare for those. And then NHS also helped with Field Day last week on Monday and Tuesday. So if you don't know what that is, you go into the arena and organize activities for all the kids to do. So that was good.
Am I on? No? Okay. So I'm representing ALEA and glad to be here. I have a handout for you so you don't have to write any of this down. So the Albert Lea Schools art exhibit is being held at the Art Center downtown. All the schools are represented there, and hours are 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Tuesday to Friday, and 10 to 1 on Saturday. It's free to get in. Upcoming events that you're invited to: Hawthorne K1 music performance on April 26th. I'm not sure the time. Hawthorne also said KAAL Weather Lab is coming on Thursday afternoon for a whole school assembly. They were supposed to come previously, but the weather interfered. And then May 9th, there will be a talent show at Halverson for 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. In recent elementary news, all elementary schools have started MCA testing this week. I had the Tiger Trot on there as well. Lakeview had a music program on Friday. Halverson did too. And Lakeview recently had a family folk dance night there was a session for kindergarten to 2nd grade and 3rd to 5th, and it was a wonderful event. This is our second annual, I believe.
Did the principal dance?
He did. He danced with some students. Yeah, we had a set of twins, and one of them, they came with their mom, so one needed a partner. Even with the winter weather returning, we're busy planning field trips for the spring. We have going to the museum, Hormel, Nature Center, fire station, library, state park, planting plants, 2nd grades hatching caterpillars, so all kinds of fun things. In future plans, there was supposed to be a STEM conference last week, and due to the weather, that was rescheduled for April 24th. So Mark Nikaneki is going, and Kristen Seeger and Stacy Waltman, and Mark's going to present a session on some really easy things you could do for technology. The other people are going to attend the sessions, so things like mystery Skypes, coding clubs, number talks, just really simple things. And in future plans, ALEA has formed a committee to try to increase the amount of money that we have in our scholarship fund. In the past, ALEA has given 2 $750 scholarships to people interested in pursuing teaching as a career, and they're looking at increasing that to $1,000 at least, hopefully, and if not, at least 2 of them more, possibly. So there's a committee working on that. In the past, they funded that through a Gobble Wobble walk event, and it was always held in November. Weather was iffy, and asking businesses was pretty labor intensive. We're trying to do something now that would involve teachers more than soliciting donations from the community. So we're thinking about doing it like a music event or a silent auction, possibly at the winery, also in conjunction with some nights at a restaurant that would offer percentages off of their sales donated to this effort. So Wednesday, there's a meeting this week to continue that planning. So that's my update. Sure. Yep, I'll pass these out.
So we too like it that Dennis went first and could talk about what we're seeing at Sibley firsthand. So this is what we shared last time, and I updated this a little bit. Maybe you don't recognize where all the dots were last time, but this is as of April 2nd. This is our K-5 enrollment represented by all those dots. And so we've talked last time about some what to do as we look at these numbers. And one of the things we talked about was all new open enrollees, so those who are not District 241 residents, will be assigned a school where there's capacity. So they register at the district office, or even if they are kindergartners and registering in the buildings right now, we will take a look at those and see where capacity is. All current enrollees who have addresses outside of their school boundaries, so these are District 241 residents, you saw the boundaries. If they are living outside of their boundary, we'll be asking those families for proof of residence via utility bills, so we can make some judgment as to, is this a split family? Do we have students who are maybe in a different school because of self-contained classroom? Kind of take a look at the full parameters of why they may be in a different neighborhood school than the one where they reside. Another option is current K-2 students, and I'm going to show you an adjusted Lakeview-Sibley boundary. North of County Road 46 could be moved to Lakeview, and current Sibley, then grade 3-4 students would remain at Sibley as grade 4-5, 4th, 5th graders in 1920. Students, of course, can voluntarily move with their siblings to Lakeview. So what does that look like? So basically what we've done is taken County Road 46 from downtown where its current boundary is. It meets at Broadway and Main, and take it all the way to the western boundary of the district. So that, in that area, then all the way north, except for Clark's Grove, those current K-2 students who are in that area who would have been assigned to Sibley would be assigned to Lakeview. Just a little bit about some of individual student populations. About 5 of those students are on IEPs that would move from Lakeview, or from Sibley to Lakeview. It moves 1 EL student from Sibley to Lakeview, and approximately 25 students who are free and reduced lunch. So if you see in yellow there, so currently in first grade, we would that would be 20 students who are currently kindergartners at Sibley. Next year, as first graders, would move to Lakeview. 16 who are current first graders moving into second grades, and 20 third graders who are currently second graders moving into third grade. So with that shift, and approximately 15 kindergartners. Kindergartners change every day. This morning's enrollment, an additional kindergartner came in already assigned to Lakeview. So with these numbers as of this morning, we would be at 380 students approximately at Lakeview, and 356. So we would keep the current third and fourth graders. And they would become, of course, fourth and fifth graders. And that would balance our sections to 17 and 16. And that is increasing we're adding we know kindergarten will grow. So even though that might balance out to 2, we're looking at 3 kindergartens. A little more detail. So that's just kind of a little more detail on the area. And
Urena, they're north of 46, would that move all of those families to Lakeview then, or would they?
correct. Would move everyone north of 46 to Lakeview. So if you see there, it's a little more detail. And then here, so here's what happens if you don't shift. And again, these are approximations. Again, we know people shift and move, and but if we don't shift, you can see approximately Lakeview would sit at 43 to 64. Again, those numbers will go up no matter what. And if we don't shift the 20, the 16, the 20, that 56 students, you'll see that Lakeview will drop to about 309, and Sibley will drop just slightly to 427.
How many, you talk about moving students, Kathy. How many families would be impacted where they may have one sibling at Lakeview and another one at Sibley?
So as of this morning, taking in the new kindergartners that we know of that are in this north of 46 boundary, this impacts 10 current Sibley families that would have someone in 4th or 5th grade next year and someone K3 at Lakeview. So 10 families. And again, there may be some more if we don't know the kindergartners.
I think last time we mentioned the possibility of leaving it up to the choice of the family. If they would be split, any chance that we might luck out and have 5 go to Lakeview?
Yeah, as I look at the list, and not disclosing any names, but people know where they live. There's some people who have, the hike field area currently. So this right now, that area goes to Sibley. So that would north of 36. We know that might be a little more advantageous to families in there who may have some splits. And we know some folks have grandparents that, I know that they have grandparents who live in the Lakeview area as opposed to the Sibley area. So there might be some, but again, we don't know for sure.
So next year's first, second, and third graders that would be the shift. If they're going into first, going into second, going into third.
Correct.
That would be the move.
Correct.
Is that a choice they can make? Let's say I've got a 4th grader this year and a 1st grader. We're going to be 4th and 1st next year, and so the following year be 5th and 2nd. Would they be able to choose each year, or would that be a one-time choice?
Well, they'd be able to choose, but again, the choice is a one-way choice. I mean, they would have to choose where the younger siblings going to school.
Just with the younger one.
Mm-hmm.
And Kathy, you said something about all incoming kindergartners might be considered. Are you only talking about open enrollment incoming kindergartners, or all incoming will be considered for a different school?
So that 15 up there, that's the estimate of moving from Sibley to Lakeview in this new area. And then the open enrollees, it would really be all open enrollees. We would look at, if they're new to the district.
Okay, thank you. And then the utility bill checking would be for all students in the district?
Only where we have multiple residents within the system. So, for example, if we have somebody currently, Mary Jo brought one to my attention 2 weeks ago, where somebody enrolled a student and gave us their address, and the address was the grandparents' address for the younger kid, but their high school students had their parents' address. So it was, if there's a question about where
Yeah, so there's been several situations, and so that situation was all students are at the high school, but another student used the grandparents' address, but clearly live in a school that they're choosing, they would like to go to Sibley, but that's not their school. And so we've been making some tough calls, and sorry, we are a neighborhood school district. Another example is we've been getting kindergarten enrollments where we'll see current address and mailing address. And so when I see that, I've called the families and just say, well, you got 2 addresses here, where do you reside? And parents have been honest to say, well, we put down the mailing address because we wanted this school. And, you know, the response is, we would love to accommodate everybody, but the reality is we got to look at the boundaries for Sibley. We're over capacity. Kindergarten numbers there this year are very high. We wanted to divide one of the kindergarten sections because they're over cap. I mean, Diane's here. She can vouch for it. Of her kindergarten teachers have the highest classroom size in all the district, and they're over what we recommend for our cap sizes, but there was no classroom to divide, so we had to stick with, all right, we're going over capacity at Sibley this year. So when we explain it to families that way, if we understand you would really like to do this, but we have to give first priority to those who live in that neighborhood. And we will accommodate getting your kids home through busing, et cetera, if there's some daycares, whatever. So it's been making calls like that. And, you know, when we explain that, you know, they've seen it in the newspaper, so they understand, we are going to be having to really hold people accountable to their neighborhood schools. And if you're open enrolled, we'll determine when they still come and register at district office, that we'll get back to them with where the capacity, or where the best placement is based on our capacity. So those have been the things going on since we met last time.
And again, these are all suggestions. These are options we're looking at to help alleviate the crowding situation. But, you know, Kathy's slide she has up here brings up just a glaring point. We've been talking about capacity at Sibley. Well, if we don't do something, look at the undercapacity at Lakeview, which is a significant issue as well, considering the excess classroom space we have there.
I think that making sure families are accountable and going to the school that they're supposed to be going to is a good idea. I just want to, I think I mentioned this last time, just to make sure that those split families, that they're not feeling, you know what I mean? I just want to make sure that it's not somehow accidentally targeting them, because they're going to have 2 addresses for some children, and that's okay. I just wanted to accidentally target them and make sure that we're very conscientious of that.
And on that note, I think my perspective is consistency for all of the kids might be more of an approach that would avoid that kind of, well, we have to show our address, but you don't kind of situation, and also close the gaps for any one who may be trying to still skirt that issue, maybe with some new students coming in that might choose another address that's not necessarily their residence. So I guess that's just my thought on there too, if we're going to do it, to be more broad, either if it's all of a school or all of the district, to kind of hit all the families equally.
So thoughts on the boundary piece, as far as the shift? What are the board's thoughts on that at this point? You know, should we have a meeting? Well, I mean, the administration, I'm talking here. Board members certainly could show up if they wanted to, but if we are looking at doing something like this, I guess I'm looking for planning guidance and should we have a meeting with potentially impacted families and gather their feedback and then kind of report back to the board? Just want to hear your thoughts on that.
I would think so, because one of those neighborhoods north of 46 is Chapeau Heights or Chapeau Hills and all that area. And so they're not necessarily in a local walking distance neighborhood that might make more sense. So they may have more questions as to why they're selected to have to make the move. And everybody, I think, should have that option to give their opinion and their feeling about how it might affect them.
Okay. We will plan something then.
And, you know, there may not be a lot of them that show up, but the ones that will have the questions, so it's good. Safe and healthy schools. Any updates there? Okay. Number 10, effective and efficient operations. 10.1, resolution relating to the termination and non-renewal of teaching contracts of probationary teachers. Kathy.
Sure. So these are the names of the staff members who will be non-renewed, probationary staff. Some of these are out of field permissions as well. So we have 10 staff members.
Any discussion? Okay, if not, I'll look for a motion to approve. Any seconds?
I'll second.
Kim seconds. Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. Okay, motion carries. All right, 10.2 policies, annual review. Kathy.
So you all received copies of these policies, and you'll see that the red line is the updates to them, and the first really two policies together. One is equal educational opportunity, 102, and one is equal employment opportunity, 401, and both of these require the change in including gender identity or expression as part of a protected class for non-discrimination. And so the language includes that in both of the policies, and then both the student policy references the Minnesota state statute regarding sexual, religious, and racial harassment and violence. So those two policies, that is the only change to them, and it's both very similar. Any questions on those before we move to the next one? So the next, go ahead.
These are all just to put our policies in line with the statutes.
Correct. So the next policy, which is 404, employment background checks. You'll see that the change is changing the language from the State Board of Teaching to the Minnesota Professional Educator Licensing and Standards Board, also known as PELSB. And one thing just to point out is we do background checks on our volunteers as well. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Over the summer, we're going to be taking a look at our volunteer guidelines. We don't really have anything concrete, but we really should as we do background checks. Teachers now will have a background check every 5 years under PELSB, every time they renew their license. And volunteers, we need to probably be as efficient in, proficient in doing that for our volunteers as well as our licensed staff. So we'll be asking the policy committee to take a look at guidelines that will go with this policy. The next policy also pertains to visitors, but the change in the policy basically says, this is policy 903, visitors to school district building sites. This allows post-secondary enrollment option students or PSEO students to go be back on campus for uses of their high school computer labs, attend events during the school day, as long, of course, as they aren't disruptive to the school day as we would expect for any student. The statute really indicates that those students should be allowed back on campus. So that is what this policy does. And the next policy, which is a lengthy, we looked at the grad policy about a month or two ago, and this takes now our testing plan and takes all the grad policy language out and adds all the new policy with Pearson Access Next as our resource, and all of the things, all of the jobs that are responsible and laid out in statute for testing. This all looks really familiar to me, and everyone that's involved in testing, our test security responsibilities, and then it strikes the old responsibilities and then the reporting. Also talks about conducting an audit. As Taryn said earlier, we are hitting testing hard this week across the district. So far, we have heard no problems. Tomorrow, the high school gears up with, I think, all 4 of the elementary schools in Southwest. So everybody will be on tomorrow, and we'll see how well our system works, and Pearson's system going right out to Pearson instead of some of the other things we've done. So that policy is just the changes that have all been made on testing. That's our testing plan, and we do follow it. And the last policy is similar to that. It's 615, and it's testing accommodations, modifications and exemptions for students on IEP, Section 504, accommodations and LEP students. So again, this takes the grad rule out of accommodations and adds a few things in here. One thing to note, as you look on the very last page 5, this is really significant for school districts across the state that are EL students, new to the United States, now will take all assessments, including all academic assessments in math, reading, and science, as well as the access tests. So we used to have newcomers would be exempt for that first year of testing, and they no longer are. There is a correction. So if you'll see under definitions of terms, that is the wrong website there, and Ashley will be correcting it. That comes from MSBA, and they have the wrong website. The new website is minnesota.pearsonaccessnext.com, so we'll be changing that. And then in the next paragraph, Chapter 5 of the Current Procedures Manual and current guidelines rather than 17-18 guidelines. So we'll just take the date out of there and put the term current, and then take the link out that takes us to the 2018 PDF and go to the general page of policies and procedures. So I was looking through the policy today and said, that's not right. That's pretty sad that somebody can see that detail and know that isn't correct. So so that adjusts the other testing policy for accommodations under our new testing system.
Okay, thank you. So each one of these will be separate, right?
I think you can take, unless there's any controversy here, I think you can just say, make a motion to approve 102, 401, 404, 903, 614, and 615, unless somebody wants to pull and talk individually.
I'll move approval of policy 102, 401, 404, 903, 614, and 615 revisions.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same sign. Okay, motion carries. All right, number 11. Thank you, Kathy. Closed session pursuant to Minnesota Statute Section 13D.03, labor negotiations. I'm looking for a motion to go to closed session. So moved. A second?
Second.
A second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, the same. All right, closed session.